everyone. Welcome back to the Talking Podcast. My name is David Mubita and I'm the host. Well, we are back to this week again with another epic episode on the show. And of course, this is your number one and favorite podcast platform in the city. And we are also the fastest growing digital talking podcast. And of course, we do feature different kind of people on the show to talk about different kind of topics that fall under academics, leadership, and entrepreneurship. And guess what, guys? We're just getting started with the year. And of course, we wanted to start this year on a very lighter note and of course, good note. So yeah, today in the studio, I have with me a very innovative person, problem solver, not just problem solver, but creative problem solver, and also a business founder who has been able to run a different kind of activities for their startup. And of course, it's one of the biggest, innovative startups here in Rwanda. So yeah, they're going to help us talk about today's topic, which is running a startup as well as pitching a business idea innovatively, not just pitching anyhow, but innovatively. Take note of that. And of course, don't forget to follow us on our social media platform, which is The Talking Podcast on Instagram, as well as on YouTube, The Talking Podcast. By the way, we have also been verified by Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. So you can actually have an access to this audio version of this interview. So yeah, allow me to introduce my guest on the show. Hello, Yusuf. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Good.
How are you doing?
I'm so well. Good to have you.
Thank you very much. Thanks
Yeah,
for having me.
it took me some days to have you here. I got inspired when you told me I'm busy. I'm like, of course, I expect you to be busy. How have you been otherwise?
I've been great. And yeah, sorry we're not able to do this a while ago.
Yeah, but it's fine actually. That's what defines you, man. He's a busy man, guys.
Yeah, being a startup founder is very busy and time consuming, and especially in January, there's a lot of things happening. So. Your schedule is not really set, so a lot of the disruptions might happen. So
exactly.
But I'm super excited to be here and that we can finally do this.
Exactly, man. I'm happy to see you. And yeah, finally, the man himself is here. And of course, so as I said earlier, today we're looking at running a business, or a startup business, as well as pitching a business idea innovatively. I think in Africa now there are a lot of startups, and people out there, they're really doing so hard to form up something, come up with something, especially in the business world. So, and you are one of the people here in Rwanda, who's really doing amazing things. And I'm proud of what you're doing, actually.
Thank you.
I've been following your business venture. It's really doing great things, You're creating impact, in the lives of different kind of young people there. I'd like to hear from you. How has been your experience so far, as one of the founders of a most innovative startups here in Rwanda that has been able to draw attention? And when I talk about attention, both locally and internationally, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it's exciting, right? But I always try to stay to always feel like we haven't even got started. That is always the spirit. That's how I am as an individual. I always believe that it's great to celebrate successes and small wins, but also keep an eye on the bigger picture.
Exactly.
And always have dreams that are very, very big, and they're crazy, to the point that any success always feels like it's a 1% to where you actually want to get to. So I feel excited about what we've done. Sometimes I think about it and I'm like, oh my God, we've been able to do all these things. But when you're constantly operating a business and you're day-to-day working on it, you don't necessarily get the time to sit down and be like, oh my God, we've come from here and we've got here.
Exactly.
And it's very important, but also always don't let that get to your head, and always just make sure that you have bigger dreams, and that is my case, right? So still have crazy dreams, bigger dreams, and I always believe that, great, yes, we've done this, but let's keep moving and do even more. But it's very exciting, right? For example, when I meet people and they remind me about that, and I'm like, oh my God, I should really take the time to appreciate that as well. So yeah.
Interesting. Now, this also makes me curious. Looking at your business venture, very innovative indeed, with very clear vision, very clear mission. What problem did you identify, and what sort of tools did you look for in order to kickstart with your business venture?
Yeah, I mean, it's been as I mentioned to you earlier on. In May this year, we're gonna be a 5-year-old startup, right? And obviously, there's been a lot of ups and downs, mostly downs, and a few ups. The problem that we identified was very simple, right? Which is something that is becoming a bit more clear on the continent right now. It's a problem when it comes to finding skilled talent, right? This is one of the biggest problems that a lot of businesses are talking about right now. And quickly identify that problem. I was fresh from high school here in Rwanda, and one of the ideas was I wanted to get into a university here locally, where I could really practice, I could gain the skills that would set me up for my future, right? But the problem was that I started speaking to a lot of university students here in Rwanda. What are the best universities to go to, right? I think by that time, African Leadership University was not yet based in Rwanda, and which is now one of the best probably universities. So I started speaking to a lot of university students and asking them, what is your experience, talking to some graduates, what is your experience now that you've graduated? How easy is it for you to get a job? What are you doing right now? And surprisingly, a lot of them mentioned, yeah, I've graduated, not able to get the job, right? And what they said was apparently the skills that I'm earning from university are not what the employers are looking for, which is a massive problem that a lot of students and young people are going through on the African continent, right? I always give this example where if you are right now enrolling into a finance degree and your teachers during the classroom, they're not teaching you about cryptocurrency, they're not teaching you about all these new technologies that are emerging in the fintech space. By the time you graduate in 5 years or 4 years from now, your degree is obsolete because every single employer is probably on the job description. They're going to ask you for, knowledge in cryptocurrency is a must for this kind of role. And you're going to realize that you've gone through a 4-year degree that has not even prepared you for that. And now you have to spend extra money on another course, extra money somewhere to gain those skills so you can actually be employable, which means that you've invested into something that is not really valuable. So that is one of the biggest problems that the African continent is facing. But also at the same time, employers are trying to hire people, but they're like, if I hire somebody without experience, they're going to take longer. I'm going to spend a lot of money trying to train them to become ready for the job, right? So it becomes very, very hard for these two target markets to eventually just meet each other and actually work together. And that's really the problem that was identified. And my co-founder and I really decided, okay, what do we actually do to try and solve this problem? In terms of like tools, I mean, in the early days, we were not a tech company. We were more running workshops and really being hands-on and doing kind of like physical interaction as a way to deliver our
being
solution.
on the ground.
Exactly, right? And later we started realizing that, technology is a way to be able to impact more people because you can only have so many people into a studio like this, as opposed to how many people you can impact with your digital platform. So I would say one of the tools was to actually use that as a way to get started. And then later on, obviously, implemented other different tools that has helped us shape and grow.
Nice. You've mentioned something. You stated like when you were starting, first thing that you did was like to interact with different kind of students from different kind of universities based here in Rwanda. That means like you were on the ground, right? Trying to really identify the root cause or knowing more about what they need. So how important is it for like any entrepreneur out there, any like startup founder to like really keep time, create time and like go on the field and try to consult from people? How important is that?
It's crazy important, right? It's something that a lot of people are talking about, but then it can kind of become, too generic, right? Everybody says, talk to your users, talk to your customers. Any video on YouTube about building a company, the first thing is talk to your users. If you listen to Jeff Bezos or anybody else who has been successful, they're going to tell you talk to your users, right? Which can kind of like lose its value because people now are like, okay, it's too generic, right? How about I just build something? But the way to look at it is very simple. It's if you don't talk to them now, trust me, you're going to talk to them later. So
you're going to need them.
How
like,
about
you
start
can't just
talking to
exclude
them
them from
you
your
cannot.
journey.
It's impossible, right? Because you're trying to roll out a product that person is going to use.
Not you,
right? So as much as you think these are the right things to do, it's great, but you have to get into the mentality where restaurants use this more often. The customer is the king. So if the customer does not want to do that, they're not going to pay for your service, right? Or your product. So you have to figure out, what do you want to do? What is the job that you want to get done with this product? And how can I build something that you're going to use and you're going to be happy to pay for? That is really the way to look at it, right? It's, if you don't talk to them now, fine. You're going to build a product. You're going to roll it out on the market. Maybe if you're really, really, really smart and you've put in a lot of work, maybe you're going to crack the code and you're going to have a product that people are going to use, and people did not realize that they actually needed it.
Yeah.
Right. But it's only 1% of the people who actually do that, because you have the likes of Steve Jobs, who was very good at observing people, right? As much as you can also talk, but he was very good at also observing the way people do things, and he was able to make conclusions and say, oh, you're holding that paper this way, right? Okay, maybe it might, make you a bit tired. So how about I introduce something that can actually solve that problem, right? It's something that you as a customer might not necessarily know that you have as a challenge. And by introducing that solution, you're like, oh, that's actually right. But if you would have asked me, would you like me to give you a better solution than that? You'll be like, no, I'm fine with this, right? So it's a very tricky kind of like thing to get into. You have to be really a genius for you to crack that code without talking to the customers. So the best way to secure and make your product, increase the chances of your product being successful, talk to your customers, identify their pain and what is their problem, and try to build a solution around that, because already you have that person as a customer.
Yeah. Interesting. One of the biggest challenges, like most people are faced when starting up a business, is the art of being able to identify whether they are capable of starting up any startup business, or if they're capable of running it, because these are two different things, starting up a business and maybe even running it, right? Yeah. So how does one determine that, okay, I'm capable of doing this business and starting it up?
A simple answer will be, you don't know.
You don't know. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows until you actually do it, right?
I like that.
I think any founder, any CEO of a company, any operator of a company, you always have this worry in your mind that, am I actually doing the right thing every day, right? That is the biggest problem that you always have, is that, is this the right decision to take, right? Obviously, you have a lot of metrics of why you took that specific decision, but it's always because you are introducing a new solution. You're creating a business basically out of nowhere, right? And you are looked upon as a person to actually drive this business to success, right? So, one key factor would be, have you ever done something similar before, right? So, for example, that's why experience is very needed. Is, have you run a company and exited, or managed to raise a significant amount of money and all these things? Have you done it before? If yes, then maybe you increase the chances of being successful at your next startup, but it's not guaranteed anyways. So I would say that any founder who's actually building, you have that worry that, okay, am I the right person to do this, right? Maybe somebody else is better at marketing than I am. Maybe somebody else is better at coding than I am. Maybe they should be building this. But what you have as a founder is, you have that drive and that passion, and nobody can take that. People can come in and complement skills. So people can be better coders than the CEO of a company. Your employees they always say you should hire people who are smarter than you, but nobody has that drive of, I want to drive this. I want to actually solve this problem, right? So, for example, we were chatting about this, this specific podcast that you have. Nobody has the same drive as you to take it to actually success, right? Nobody's gonna have that. Everybody's gonna have the great tools and much better this and this, but you have a problem that you all want to solve. And that is what's keeping you day and night doing the work. So that is what you have, and that is what makes you a better operator of that business than somebody else who's just in there to, okay, I'm just contributing my skills.
Yeah.
But you have the passion and you have the willpower to actually drive this, no matter the downs and all the challenges you're gonna face. You still have that drive and say, I'm gonna wake up and keep doing this. So that is what makes you, I would say, a better person to run the company.
Awesome. I like what you mentioned there. So, hey, listeners out there, this is the Talking Podcast. And of course, I'm talking to one of the most creative and innovative and founders here in Rwanda. He's doing quite a number of things out there and really, really creating impact that we all need as a society. So, yeah, we are talking at a very interesting topic today, which is running a business as well as pitching business ideas effectively and innovatively. So, when we talk about pitching business ideas, you're one of the people that has participated in different kind of, not just participating, but you have gotten the money of different competitions, I'm curious, what kind of, skills do you have that has really kept you in the game when it comes to pitching business ideas to different kind of investors, people out there?
I mean, to get to it with a bit of context, I think one of the first times that I actually did my first kind of like startup pitch, I always look at that day, and I actually run workshops on pitching about that, and I always give that example that was probably the worst pitch that I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
Right?
Till now.
Till now. I mean, I think that kind of like me failing that time, really, ever since that day, I literally put in my head, I was like, I am never going to do a pitch that as bad as that, and I am going to work every day to become the best presenter.
Oh, you mean it was bad? The first
one? Really bad.
Oh, okay.
It was horrible. It was horrible, right?
The first one, like the first time.
The first one. Pitching. Exactly. The first time pitching, it was in my eyes, it was horrible. Right?
Oh, okay.
But if you ask my people who are close to me, they'll be like, "Oh, it was really good." But I don't believe that.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I thought that it was bad, which comes back to your question, in terms of like, what skills have I been able to like build upon after that, was a number of reasons, right? I believe that during my first pitch, and one of the reasons why I felt like I really did a bad pitch was, one of the number ones was I was talking too much. Right? So that was number one, right?
Okay.
And I see that a lot of us young founders, we do that kind of challenge because you're so passionate about this thing. You've been doing it. You've been, you have that passion, so you really want to explain all the details. I was talking too much, which sometimes not really help you, right? And we're gonna get to that. Another reason was that I didn't really properly prepare in terms of like, what are some of the questions that I might actually get from the audience, right? And how should I actually start preparing some of these things? And that kind of lack of preparation, leads to, first of all, you're already stressed when you're pitching in front of people. So when they throw at you a question that you haven't thought about, you start, thinking out loud, and you're like, oh, and that really just ruins the whole pitch, right?
Yeah.
Another thing is that I was trying to use a lot of like complicated words. Which again is a very rookie kind of like mistake, is that you want to sound smart, so you use a lot of like complicated words to make something sound as smarter than it is.
Yeah.
So let's build up on those three things. And then later I started realizing that a good pitch is something that is very concise. It's very straight to the point. Like, what is it exactly that you're pitching? You're selling the banana, right? Why are you trying to make it sound like this is a great fruit that looks yellow and it's just go straight to the point? It's a banana, right? If you eat it, it's gonna give you energy, for example, right? That's very straight to the point, and getting to the essence of what is it exactly you're trying to convey as a message, right? That was number one, something that I really, and that I'm working a lot to actually improve. It's how do you get to the essence of the pitch? Like, what is it exactly that you're pitching? Because when you're pitching, the audience is trying to connect to what you're saying. And if by the time you end your pitch, I always tell people is that you want to reduce the number of questions as much as possible by covering as much things as possible, right? In a very short time.
Yeah.
So the essence and getting straight to the point. Number two, I would say, is simplicity. right? Simplicity, as I mentioned again, it's don't try to use complicated words because they're going to make you sound smart. It's only going to create a lot of confusion and you're going to get a lot of questions. Okay, how does it exactly work, right? Simplicity. What do you do? What is the value that you provide? For who? Simple. If I would summarize a pitch, that would be what I would summarize it for. And then another thing is that try to always connect to your audience, right? It's something that I had to learn. It's if you're in the audience, for example, when we're talking about who's fit to run a podcast, I automatically gave an example about you, right? So because I'm using an example here to make it, like very relevant to the situation.
Exactly.
It's the same as a pitch. If you observe in the audience, for example, for my company, if I observe in the audience that there are students there, I need to relate the pitch to the students.
You need to switch the language.
Exactly. I need to switch the language. They need to understand what is it exactly I'm trying to do for them.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what the pitch is about. It's telling people so they can understand easily that, oh my God, this is what I do. And if they can use your service, then they can use it. Right? So those are kind of like the things that I had to learn in terms of like how to deliver a good pitch that can win you competitions, can get you investment, can get you customers as well.
Beautiful indeed. Beautiful tips there, and I hope that people could take note of those. Like, guys, just be simple about it. If you are selling a banana, you better make it clear that it's a banana.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not selling a tree, like you're selling a banana. So yeah, make it clear. And I love the fact that you mentioned you need to like really don't complicate things. Like be straightforward to what your business is about.
And it's the hardest thing to do.
Right?
Being simple.
Yeah. But it's good that people should actually prioritize that and make it like they should master the art.
Yes.
Yeah. So I believe that right now you've come across to different kind of challenges, and being as an entrepreneur, you interact with different kind of other entrepreneurs out there, and you are able to maybe hear their different experiences, their stories. What is it that you see like it's the most biggest challenge that most of startup founders face, especially in the African context?
African context, I would say, obviously there's a number of challenges, right? If you ask any founder on the street right now, they would mention, "Oh my God, I need money." Right?
I'm a faranga.
Right? Exactly. Literally.
Yeah. That's a must.
It's a must. But again, there's a lot of like conversation around this. Is that do you really need the money, or do you just need to execute on your product? Because initially you're building a business so you can be sustainable on your customers' revenues, right? Ideally, that's what a business should be about. However, you start needing money when you want to accelerate the growth of the company, like very quickly. So, for example, if you want to build a technology that takes you a bit more time and a bit more resources so that you can serve the customers and actually get that money, then you need to raise money to be able to do that, right? So you can start serving your customers later on. However, I also do see that a lot of founders, we try to, it starts to look cool that you actually are raising money or you've raised money. So it starts to look like a cool thing. So we're all chasing investment money because we feel like it's a cool thing to do. However, if you don't really need money, do not chase that investment, because the only thing that it's going to do, it's going to create a lot of challenges with you. You're going to try to motivate where you need the money to your investors. You're going to get into a lot of troubles, depending on what is the structure of the investment. So I would say the number one problem is raising when you actually don't need money.
Okay. So just to cut you short, like, do you think it's a problem for startup founders like to first prioritize getting the money, or they should like first focus on maybe giving value?
Yes, obviously there's different kind of like cases and scenarios, right? There are founders who they cannot do anything without actually that initial investment. What I would always say is that if you can, for people who can, and there's so many of them out there, is that build your product and get those first few customers to start paying you right away, right? Monetize that product, make some money with this product, right? And then only raise when you actually, if you say, we have so much demand that we cannot supply. Okay. That is what we need money for, right? Because that is what you need to get into an investment talk with. It's, guys, I have 100 clients right now. but I cannot serve them because I do not have the proper equipment or the proper technology for me to be able to serve these people. But they are there. So I need your money for me to be able to serve these people, right? Initially, in my view and my point of view, is that that's when you should actually be trying to get that investment, because at least you have a clear idea of where the money is going to go, right? Otherwise, if you're just raising for the sake of raising and you want to be a cool company, you want to, we've seen a lot of companies raise way too much money and not knowing where to actually put this money, because you start investing in bigger offices, you hire more team members, you invest heavily into marketing when even your product, you don't have that much experience with the product, and you start facing challenges where you have so many customers, but then the product is failing. You have so much cost because of the investment, because if you get in $1 million and you cannot spend that money to grow the business, then you're going to spend it into bigger offices, fancy, and when you don't get another investment, you're going to have to sustain all of those expenses that you've had.
Interesting.
So that's one of the biggest problems, especially in the investment side. Obviously, I would say another one is like the lack of access to talent, right? I think a lot of small businesses, it's very hard for you to access the right people who can really help you grow your company, right? So it's only a few of them, and in markets such as Africa, where if there comes a bigger company that offers bigger salaries, even your best tech developers are going to quit your job and they're going to go to this other bigger company because it gives them much better security for the future. So the lack of access to talent is huge. Also, the lack of not functional kind of like angel investment in the continent, for example. With some of my friends, we talk about it's very easy to raise $1 million than it is to raise $10,000, right? Which is insane when you really look at it.
Yeah.
So you can't find enough people to give you 10K, but you can find 60 people who can give you $1 million and up.
Yeah.
So how do you grow?
Exactly. So you mentioned something which is about lack of talent, right?
Yeah.
Like having the right people that you could start working with.
Yes.
Since it's a startup, you really need people who are passionate about it, right? So I know, and this is the real challenge. Like most of young entrepreneurs out there, they're facing really having the right people to work with. Finding the right people like that can buy into the idea and take them to another level. How do you go about finding the right people, like among maybe your colleagues, your friends, to and how do you make them buy into your idea, believe into your idea, and start working with them?
I think this becomes which is something that you might know a lot about when it comes to like branding and marketing. It becomes a lot about branding and marketing, right? When you have a very strong brand and a brand that is well respected, you're automatically gonna attract, I would say, talents to work with you, talented people, and people who actually share your passion. So if you are trying to build your team and you don't know how to actually attract the right talent, I would say you are not doing enough work when it comes to talking about what you do.
Interesting. Well, they say whatever goes up must definitely come down. And this brings us to the end of this week's episode. This has been the Talking Podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel, which is the Talking Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, the Talking Podcast, and also access the audio version of this on different kind of platforms such as Apple Podcast, as well as Google Podcast and Spotify. This has been David Mubita, the host, aka the People's Choice. I'm out. See you next week.